In this research review, we'll look at a study that I came across listening to a Barbell Shrugged episode with Dr. Andy Galpin, who, if you have not checked out, highly recommend listening to anything he's got. He is an exercise physiologist that does a great job breaking everything down. Their most recent episode 606, will blow your mind and also humble you if you think you knew a lot of stuff and just the complexity of everything physiology. But past that, this earlier episode I listened to, they were talking about looking at different kind of long-held beliefs in fitness that could be kind of debunked with science. And Dr. Galpin referenced this effect on warm-up with different weighted bats on normal baseball bat velocity. This is one of those things that for a long time, unless it was happening differently that I'm unaware of, and that could very well be the case, but for me never really made a whole lot of sense and really opened up my eyes to looking at different things. Is you see when somebody is in the warm-up or the on-deck circle, they usually are adding a donut or picking up a heavier bat or some sort of contraption to add weight to the bat, and they're doing practice swings. I remember in my not very skilled baseball days, I would try and time out the pitcher with a heavy bat with theory and logically. If I swing a heavier bat, when I then go and pick up a normal bat, I will swing faster. Seemingly that would make logical sense, and so that's really what they were looking at in this paper. And they were looking at how that impacted baseball players. Obviously, bat velocity is an essential component of hitting the baseball. Everybody warms up a little differently, so they wanted to find potentially some evidence to find the best way to do that. So they had 19 recreational male baseball players. So again, recreational. This doesn't necessarily apply to everybody in the majors. That could potentially produce different results. But they did 3 different randomized warm-up conditions that were completed and then analyzed for the velocity and for their effect on post-warm-up normal baseball bat velocity. So they did a warm-up, randomized, and then swung with the normal baseball bat. So subjects were instructed to perform 5 maximal swings with 3 different bats. There was a light bat, which was just over 9 ounces, a normal bat around 31 ounces, and a heavy bat at about 55 ounces. They would then take a 30-second rest and then follow up with 5 swings of the normal bat. So as they broke down the data, they found out that the warm-up velocity of the light bat was significantly faster than the normal bat, and then that the normal bat was significantly faster than the heavy bat. Pretty standard. You would think that would be the case. But what they found that was unique, I think anyway, is for post-warm-up, the light bat and the normal bat produce significantly faster velocity of the normal bat than utilizing the heavy bat. So in theory, then, warming up with 5 swings of a light or normal bat actually seems to increase post-warm-up velocity of the normal bat, the one you'd actually use in competition, when compared to warming up with a heavy bat after about 30 seconds of rest. 30 seconds of rest generally, I'm guessing, was used to try and mimic warming up in the on-deck circle, getting up to bat, and having to hit. Not a huge time difference in there, depending on how the at-bat was going. But obviously, if that batter before you gets out or gets on base, you've got some sort of time gap in there, but that's not significant. So, kind of contrary to what seemingly was my logic as a young, not very talented baseball player, is that you don't necessarily want to use the heavy bat to go and warm up, and with the theory that you are going to then swing faster with the normal bat. And this, to me, seemingly doesn't make, again, logical sense, but when you really kind of break it down, it can make sense in that, yes, while you would think going from heavier to lighter would increase your velocity, actually priming your muscles to go and swing and move at a higher velocity then can translate over to adding a little bit more weight into your hand. And since those muscles are primed, you can be ready to go and swing, in this instance, with greater velocity. So then you start thinking, you kind of look into, this is something that track coaches have done for a lot of years with overspeed training, where you're being pulled along to go faster than what your body has typically experienced, and that can potentially produce faster results. There's a bunch of different training out there when you look at things with weighted baseballs versus lighter baseballs, depending on what your goals are and what we're trying to focus on. If it is truly velocity, maybe it is a lighter baseball. That makes sense, instead of a heavier baseball. Now, there may be a time and place for those heavier objects in terms of, targeted specific strengthening or different aspects of that. But it appears that when it comes to velocity, specifically in this study as it relates to recreational baseball players, a lighter bat is going to produce greater velocity. And so I think that's just something to kind of take into account when you're looking at things that's seen in some other areas. We had experimented this with the football team I worked with. Instead of just having a walkthrough the day before a game, we actually had a relatively high intensity, very low volume, short practice, with the concept that if we can prime the body to be ready to operate at the fastest level from the day before going into the next day, we then don't have this big gap between a higher intensity practice and the intensity of a game. Seemingly produced some good results in terms of win-loss. Obviously, a lot of factors play into that, but it was definitely not a negative response. Nobody came in tired, nobody came in sore, because it was specifically high intensity, targeted, short, and not meant to get to that level. So really interesting study, one that I always just kind of felt fascinating, and really one of those cool research things that contributed to the literature, but also just gave you kind of a unique answer to something that probably has just been going on for a long time that you may have never really thought about. So with that, this is this research review. If you're listening to this, we'll put the citation into the show notes and the social media posts. If you happen to kick over to YouTube for it, it has all that information in the video as we just screenshotted the first page. So hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll talk to you guys soon.